Welcome back to BrainFLoTv. If you've never been here before, go ahead and hit that subscribe button. Click the bell next to the subscribe button so you are notified every time a new video goes up on BrainFLoTv. Hit that bell so you're notified every time a new video goes up. We put videos up every day. Gary Coleman. Gary Coleman's wife just failed a lie detector test when asked questions about his death, which has led many to believe that she knows something about the way he died, and possibly she's probably the person who took his life. Now, if you don't know who Gary Coleman is, because you might be from now era instead of from back in the day era, Gary Coleman, real name Gary Wayne Coleman, he was an American actor known as a high profile child star from the 70s to into the 80s. Super popular, won many awards. Born in Zion, Illinois, Gary Coleman grew up with adopted parents, and he had a kidney disease that lasted throughout his life, which, due to the corticosteroids and other medications that were used to treat this kidney disease, it stunted his growth. So he did not grow beyond 4 feet, 8 inches tall. However, he was a powerhouse in Hollywood, especially throughout his childhood days and into his young teenage days when he took up our TV screen. His most famous soap opera, or not soap opera, but TV show he was on was called Different Strokes. What you talking about, Willis? If you've never seen Different Strokes, then go watch the reruns. Super hilarious, funny, and you can imagine what was going on back then. That's just to put you on the same page so everybody understands who Gary Coleman is. Now, Gary Coleman's wife recently, ex-wife, justifies pulling the plug on the star with shocking reasons after she failed a lie detector test. Imagine failing the lie detector test about how your significant other passed away, and then revealing that you pulled the plug, and you pulled the plug when you were not supposed to pull the plug. So, Gary Coleman's ex-wife, Shannon Price, is standing by her decision to take the Different Stroke star off life support, despite years of scrutiny and a failed lie detector test that has now fueled some very fresh outrage. In 2010, the TV star was placed in a medically induced coma after suffering a traumatic brain hemorrhage from a fall inside of his Utah home that he shared with the same woman named Price. Just 2 days later, after he fell down those steps and was placed in the coma, medically induced coma, she authorized the doctors to end life sustaining treatment. Get this part. Even though Gary, living will, reportedly requested that he be kept alive if anything happened to him for at least 15 days before they terminate whatever measures they were doing to try to keep him alive. He actually has a live-in will. A living will is supposed to be honored, right? So in cases like this, I think even the medical facility people should be sued because they did not honor his living will. Well, she's the next in line just 2 days after she decided to pull the plug on him. Now, in a recent A&E lie detector, Truth or Deception, Price, who is now 39 years old, she gets very honest about the controversial call to pull the plug on Gary Coleman. She said, "I had no choice." She says in the public special for People, she said, "I had no choice." He had gone into cardiac arrest, and that is ultimately what took his life. When asked why she was so confident that Gary Coleman would not recover, she simply said, I just knew it. I just knew he wouldn't recover. And of course, they're like, "What do you mean you just knew he wouldn't recover? You're not a medical specialist. How do you just knew he wouldn't recover?" His living will said 15 days. You got the plug pulled in 2 days. So she continued. She said, I asked a question. I saw the condition he was in. I mean, he was basically already gone. And I said, okay, are his eyes dilated? And they said, yes. And I said, okay, can I see? And they showed me. And that's when I knew. So because his eyes were dilated after being placed in a medically induced coma, she said that was enough for her to pull the plug. Price also recalled trying to resuscitate Gary, whom she married in August of 2007. But check this out, y'all. After they got married in 2007, right, the marriage did not last. The marriage did not last. They secretly divorced just a few years later. They called me Thursday morning, she said. But check this out. Even though they secretly divorced a few years later, they divorced under pseudonyms Jane Doe and John Doe, so it wouldn't go public. And even though they divorced, they continued to live together as man and woman in a monogamous or supposedly monogamous relationship. She said, they called me on Thursday morning and they said, does Gary have a DNR, which is a do not resuscitate order? And I said, yeah, resuscitate him. I tried. I tried to do everything in my will. She continued, she said, Thursday, I go visit him. I speak with the doctors and they are like, Shannon, we do not think that he is going to make it until Friday, meaning his condition is not going to get any better. So I made the right decision. The life support revelation comes on the heels of Shannon taking a lie detector test in the new docuseries that are out right now. Her attempt to silence long-standing rumors that she played a role in Gary Coleman's death. Though his passing was officially ruled an accident, those closest to the star were not convinced. Most of the people that knew them did not believe that he died naturally. Some openly accused her of foul play, allegations that she has repeatedly denied over the years. So in Lie Detector, Truth or Deception, she finally sat down with a former FBI agent named George Olivio to clear her name, but is blindsided when the results from her test comes back as deceptive. She said, I literally, my whole life, have had the odds working against me. And so I'm really hoping for a good outcome. Not everyone is perfect at taking polygraph tests, but I have a glimmer of hope that this will work in my favor. And people will be like, okay, you know what? She's just a normal girl that had an unfortunate situation happen. This is what she said in the docuseries that premiered. Olivia admitted, or Olivo, rather, the FBI agent who conducted the lie detector tests, admitted that he had to reel Price in to ensure that she took the test seriously after she described the process as stressful. He reviewed her results twice, first with computer analysis, and then with a second retired FBI examiner, both of them confirming the same conclusions. Price denied ever striking Gary Coleman during their marriage, but the test results came back for that as inconclusive. Remember, Gary was only 4 feet 8 inches tall. He was super insecure. She was way bigger than him. And this is the woman he was with. And she was like close to his heart. And he was probably also like, although you're a star, aren't many women lined up to date you kind of thing. So he was comfortable with who he was with in what many people believe was a abusive relationship. Like he was getting beaten and abused behind the scenes. Long story short, a lot of people think she pushed him down those steps that ended up killing him. I'm not going to say that you passed the test because you didn't, said the FBI agent to her. So she responded and said, I would never hurt him in that manner or that sense because his life was fragile. His life was so fragile. Daily life was a struggle for him, and I would never want to hurt him. Well, when asked if she intentionally withheld proper aid from Gary Coleman in the aftermath of his fall because she was there in the house when he fell down those steps, she again said she denied it. And the results for that were, again, inconclusive. So the ex FBI agent Olivo said that the question raises a little bit of an eyebrow, but he acknowledged that Price was nervous and that the unresolved nature of the incident in her mind after 14 years might contribute to her being so nervous and giving an inconclusive answer. Then Price admitted. She admitted. She said, as far as rendering aid, I could have helped him a little bit more. I will say the operator could have helped me as well a little bit more by asking me more specific questions. We're talking about the 911 operator, right? So she's blaming the 911 operator. She's saying the 911 operator could have asked more specific questions and giving her more instructions to be helpful to him, but she herself could have also helped him a little bit more. Imagine saying you could have helped your spouse or your partner a little bit more after they fell down the friggin' steps and died. Olivia snapped back, or Olivo, rather. I don't know why I keep saying Olivia, but every time I say Olivo, just know that this is the FBI agent who conducted this lie detector test. Olivo snapped back. He said, forget the 911 operator. You were there. Little bit of tough love now. You're not the victim here. He's the victim. The most explosive moment came when Olivo asked if she had physically caused Gary Coleman to fall down those steps, and she denied it. But that polygraph indicated deception. Remember, there's ways that they can tell if it's inconclusive, and then there's ways that they can tell if you are lying, which means you're being deceptive. And when they asked her if she contributed to him falling down those steps, it came back as deceptive. You failed the exam regarding Gary's fall, is what the agent said to her. There's two things I know for sure, Shannon. One, you were not completely honest with me yesterday during this polygraph section. And two, the other thing I know that's 100% certain is that there is more to the story that hasn't been told. The body never lies. The body always tells the truth. And your body on that lie detector test spoke loud and clear. There's something that caused you to fail this test, the agent said to her. She then said that she was not surprised by the final results of this test, blaming it on the FBI agent now, relying on a machine and insisting that she's at peace with all this. I know I told the truth. I'm at peace. There is a reason I am not in prison. There is a legit reason for that. And it's because they did a thorough investigation, is what she said. Maybe it's because he was a black person and you were a white woman and you shed a lot of tears, and you know how white women tears are. They're super dangerous, especially when black man is involved. So Olivo replied and said, there's also a thing called lack of evidence. Implying that you can commit a crime, but if there's a lack of evidence, the law, even though they did a thorough investigation, they can still not charge you because they don't have enough evidence to charge you. I mean, there weren't any videotape evidence of you pushing him down those stairs. There's no way for them to tell if he fell on his own. Your word is that you weren't there when he did it. You were in another part of the house, right? So Price and Coleman, they secretly got divorced in August of 2008. They used the pseudonyms John Doe and Jane Doe in those documents. The papers actually cited irreconcilable differences. No alimony was awarded, and all the properties that Gary owned stayed with Gary, although the couple continued to live together. And many people believe she married him and then quickly divorced him because she thought that that was a way that she could get rich off some of the stuff he had from back then. At the time of Gary's death, he was worth about $75,000 to $78,000. But throughout his life, he lived in the $13 million price mark range, like his lifetimes of earning out of Hollywood and his net worth, right? So there were times when he could afford the better life or the best life and the glitz and the glamour, and it was all appealing to her. She thought she could come in and take some of this. So marry him, stay around for a while, divorce him, collect some alimony, and be on your way. It didn't work out that way. He was awarded all his money. There was no alimony awarded to her, so she ended up staying with him anyways. And believe it or not, they ended up living together and staying together even after they got divorced. Gary Coleman, he rose to fame as the beloved child star of Different Strokes, known for his small stature, his charming looks, and his iconic catchphrase, "What you talking about, Willis?" However, his health was plagued by the congenital kidney defect and 2 kidney transplant, which stunned his growth at just 4 feet 8 inches tall. Congenital meaning he was born that way. So in the years before his death, Gary Coleman faced multiple hospitalization due to seizures that he was having. He also struggled with legal battles, losing most of his fortune after a bitter fight with his adoptive parents who controlled his wealth until he turned 18. Domestic troubles plagued the couple as well. His adoptive parents, it was said, robbed him. So in 2007, Gary Coleman was arrested following a heated discussion with the same Price, and he was charged with misdemeanor disorderly conduct. A year later, Price was arrested on suspicion of domestic violence after another dispute. Coleman himself was jailed in 2010 on domestic violence assault charges in the same relationship with the same woman. 3 months before his death, Gary Coleman filed for a restraining order against this same woman, accusing her of trespassing on his Santaquin home while he was hospitalized after he had just had a heart surgery, and they were not together, and he did not want to be together with her, but she had access to his house, and even though she was told not to go there, she still did. Court documents revealed he admitted to incidents of domestic violence both before and after their marriage. Domestic violence, as in he would have to be fighting her off him. Following Gary Coleman's death, close friends blamed her for foul play, especially his ex-girlfriend Anna Gray. Said, "I think Price's action speaks volumes, and I don't have to say much more than that," is what Anna said in the docuseries, referring to Price's refusal to touch Gary Coleman as he lay bleeding after he had fallen down the steps. You are with your significant other, they fall down a flight of steps, they hurt themselves, they're at the bottom of the steps, you call 911, you said, "Hello, yes, my lover has fallen down the steps, hurt themselves really badly, he's bleeding all over the floor." And they're like, "Where are you, ma'am? We're sending help. Help is on the way. Is he breathing? This is what I want you to do. I want you to start CPR. I want you to prop his head up. I want you to put something under the bleeding spot. I want you to." They were giving her instructions, but she refused to touch him at all. Wow. Price also faced criticism for not accompanying him to the hospital the night of that incident. 2 days later, she made the decision to take him off life support. So she didn't touch him when he fell down the steps. She just waited and then at some point called 911. And then after she didn't go to the hospital, 2 days later, she showed up after doctors said, listen, he ain't going to make it. Or we don't think he's going to make it till Friday. And that was a Thursday. And she said, pull the plug. Adding fuel to that fire, she allegedly took a deathbed photo of Gary Coleman and she sold it, which is an act that one friend called depraved. A deathbed photo, and she sold it to the tabloids. So the tabloids can say, here's Gary Coleman, the child star. He's on his deathbed. This is the last picture that was taken of him. We were absolutely stumped because there were way too many questions with no answers, said Gary Coleman's friend Dion Mile in a 2025 interview with Inside Edition. The 911 call that Price made after the fall raised eyebrows when the operator asked if she could touch Gary Coleman, and she replied, no, I don't want to touch him. When Inside Edition confronted Price about why she didn't try to help Gary Coleman after he fell, she defended herself. She became very defensive. She said, I did help him. I actually had to run around looking for a towel because we didn't have any in the downstairs bathroom. She then said, what people have to understand and realize is that this is the first real traumatic situation I have ever had to witness. Police reports from the night listed no suspicious circumstances, and Gary Coleman's death certificate was officially ruled the death as an incident. Price slammed that polygraph process in a statement to TMZ. We were extremely disappointed with the overall experience of both the polygraph testing and dealing with A&E. Many promises were made and they were not kept. I guess they told her they were going to protect her image in some way and it's not going to come off as she is guilty. The testing situation was unfair and it was very uncomfortable, and the testing was performed non-verbally, which I should have refused. From the beginning, it was apparent that they cared more about their ratings than actually finding out the truth, is what she said. The 2-hour premiere of Lie Detector, Truth or Deception aired July 10th at 9 p.m. on ET on A&E. Again, the 2-hour premiere of Lie Detector, Truth or Deception airs July 10th at 9 p.m. on ET and on A&E. I encourage you to go and watch it and see what I'm talking about here. Honestly, I'm like the rest of the people who care much about Gary Coleman. I think that she definitely had something to do with his death. If you ask me, my opinion is that she pushed him down those stairs. And when she pushed him down the stairs, she probably thought, just like all the other times when they argued and fight, it was going to be a little fight. Somebody might have got minor hurt, but then it'll be over. And somewhere down the line, they'll make up again and keep on living their lives. Except for this time when she pushed him down the stairs. He's a tiny guy, 4 feet 8 inches tall. He flew down them long line of stairs and he hit his head badly. And then he became unconscious and she just laid there and she sat there and watched him bleed, trying to figure out what to do next. Then she called 911. But it was too late. It was too late. What do you think happened to Gary Coleman? Do you think that his ex-wife, who was still his woman, actually had something to do with it? Or do you think that, it was just an accident and she just so happened to be there? Leave your comments in the comment section below. I'll say this. Being a kid, watching Different Strokes, it was one of my favorite things to watch. It would come on Saturday mornings and you would grab your bowl of milk and your box of cereal, and mama wouldn't care how much cereal you had from that box. It was one of the things that you could eat a lot off on Saturday mornings, watching Saturday morning cartoons and Saturday morning shows. And this was one of them. What you talking about, Willis? And you would sit there and you would binge watch it for as many series and many episodes as they would give us until our Saturday morning cartoons started. So Gary Coleman was definitely a part of my childhood growing up as far as a memorable star. Man, it's sad to know that this is how he went out. I thought he got sick and then eventually passed away, not knowing that he passed away under suspicious circumstances after falling down a flight of stairs in his own home, and all the information that came with that fall. Leave your comments in the comment section below. I'll catch you on the next video. It's BrainFLoTv. I'm out. Peace.